Hey, what's going on, guys? Jun here with Hapa英会話, and joining me today is Clay from Cafe Talk. What's
Hello.
up, Clay? How you doing today?
Hey, doing well, June. Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about the difference between how come versus why.
Right.
I'm just going to start there. To you, Clay, is there a difference between why and how come?
It's actually very difficult to say, I think. And I think the meaning is almost the same, very, very close. I think how come is probably a little bit more casual, is the first thing to say. That you might not say how come when talking to your boss or someone you're trying to be very polite to, right? But it's much more often used among friends or that in a more casual setting, I think.
なるほどね。So, why and how come? 両方とも日本語にすると、どうしてっていうね、理由を尋ねるときに使う質問の仕方で、要するに、how come はカジュアルな響きがあるのに対して、why はフォーマルではないけど、正しいね、その正しい、フォーマルな状況でも、インフォーマルな状況でも使えるのが why になる。じゃあ、Let me give you a couple of situations and you can tell me if you will use why or if you would use how come. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say that I cannot show up to your event that you are hosting tomorrow. And let's say we're friends. You know, we've known each other for a while. And I said, hey, Clay, man, really sorry, dude. I can't make it to your event tomorrow. ここでは, if you want to know the reason, would you say why or would you say how come?
No, I would probably say, oh, okay, how come? Just how come, you know? I think, yeah, because I think there's another part to this of not just being more formal versus more casual, but I think how come is also maybe a little bit more friendly. I think sometimes if you say just why to someone, it comes off as a little aggressive, maybe like almost like you're like demanding an explanation, you know? Right. So even though it's more formal usually, I think it can sometimes seem a little bit like, why not? Like a little, you're like accusing them almost in a way. Well, how come sounds a little bit more like, oh, you're just curious as to how come, why can't you do that?
Right. Exactly, right. やっぱフレンドリーな響きがあるよね。how come っていう表現は。で、特にさっきのシチュエーションみたいに、例えばクレイのイベントにごめんね、明日ちょっと行けないんだよねって連絡をしたときに、もしクレイがね、僕にどうしたのっていうのを聞くときに、英語でね、how come もしくは why どっちを使うかって言われたら、僕もクレイと同じように I wouldn't say almost 100% of the time say how come in that situation, right? And especially when you use why and how come just as is without any like sentences following. その時に like, hey Clay, I can't make it tomorrow. Why? って言われたらなんかね、like, whoa, dude, like, am I supposed to be there tomorrow? What's going on? ってなんかちょっとドキッとするよね。そこで why って言われたらね。
It comes off as a little strong.
It does, yeah.
Sometimes, I think.
だからやっぱり why とか how come を一言だけで使う場合は、特に友達ではwhy はね、きついよね。It's too harsh, I feel like. やっぱりこう理由を尋ねるときに、どうして何かあったのみたいなこう意味合いを含めて、Oh, how come? って言った方が、I guess you don't make them feel too bad, right?
Yes, right. It's more of like, oh, you're wondering or you're curious as to why they can't come, right? But if you just say why, to me, it sounds like you feel like you deserve to know, like you demand an explanation. It's like, no, tell me why. You know?
So let's flip the script here a little bit. So this was, a conversation between me and you as friends. let's say we're having a company event this time, and Clay, you are my boss.
Okay.
I am working under you.
Right.
And, everybody at the company is going to be at the event helping out. And I call you like the night before, or I email you the night before, and I'm saying, hey, Clay, I'm really sorry. Something came up and I cannot make it to the event tomorrow. In this situation, would you say how come? Would you say why? Would you use both depending on the situation?
Yeah.
この場合はどっちを使う?
From what it sounds like, I think I might say why there. Especially if, you were an important part of this event. And maybe if you not being at the event will make it more difficult or will cause some issues, you might, the person saying, I might be a little bit annoyed. So I might be thinking, well, he should have a good reason for not coming. So I'd say, why? You should tell me why if you're going to not show up.
Yeah. And coming back to like what you were saying, like you are demanding a reason here in a sense, right? やっぱ会社のイベントだし、僕もね、一人、協力者として本当イベントに参加をするはずだった。で、僕は連絡をするときに特に理由も言わずに、すいません、明日、行けませんっていうのを言ったときに、やっぱりね、上司としてはなぜ参加できないのか理由を知りたい。And I think, if I was in that situation too, 友達同士だったらね、一言で how come って言うかもしれないけど、I think in this situation, whether it's an email or phone call, you'll probably like turn the why into a sentence, right? Why can't you make it to the event?
That's true.
Tomorrow, instead of just saying why, right?
That's a great point. Yeah. That's true. Just saying why is very rude, probably, for a lot of settings. So yeah, you would say, oh, why aren't you able to come tomorrow? And even in that situation, like in a sentence, I think saying why instead of how come is still a little bit more like demanding, like you expect an answer versus again, how come is more like you are curious about the reason.
That's a good point. That is a really good point. ね、やっぱ友達に How come って聞いたときに、もし友達が if he or she doesn't want to explain, I just not really feeling it, or like, I'm just under the weather right now, or something where like the reasoning is very vague, then not that big of a deal, right? Because you're not really demanding an explanation, and as somebody being asked, you can just kind of say whatever you want, and that the other person is going to be okay with it. How come? 使う場合は。でもやっぱ why って聞かれたら、you want to make sure you have a legit reason here, right? Yeah.
I think if you're saying why, you expect an answer.
Yeah. そうだね。だけどね、やっぱり仕事の状況でも why の一言はね、結構失礼というかきついからやっぱこういう状況でも why の一言だけじゃなくて why can't you make it to the event? Why aren't you able to come tomorrow? っていうふうに、why を使ってセンテンスにして、質問を聞くっていうのが一般的かなと思いますね。じゃあ最後に、one more question here. 例えばif I'm curious, Clay, you live in Miami, and maybe a Japanese person might be very curious. Why are you studying Japanese? っていうのと、How come you're studying Japanese? ここは同じかな? Do you think that you prefer one or the other in this situation? Why are you studying Japanese, Clay? How come you're studying Japanese? Does it feel the same to you, or do you think it's a little bit different?
That's actually a really interesting one, I think. But I think honestly, in that case, why actually might make more sense. And I don't think for that case, it would sound very rude, because I think with something like studying Japanese or something that it's kind of an important thing that you've done for a long time, you wouldn't really just not have a reason for like doing something like studying Japanese, yeah, something like why do you learn Japanese, or why did you go to college, why did you move to this state, it might be more common to say why instead of how come, right?
Yeah.
Because for questions like those, there usually is a direct answer, like, oh, I studied Japanese so I could get a job there, or I moved so I could live with someone else, right? There's a reason, and it's not just, oh, how come,
Yeah. そう、そこなんだよね。So I totally agree with you. I think that if I was the one asking this question, why are you studying Japanese versus how come you're studying Japanese? I would definitely lean towards why are you studying Japanese in this one. And it doesn't matter if it's my closest friend or my family member, someone that I've known for a really, really long time. I don't think it's the casualness or the friendliness here. なんかやっぱりこういう状況では、まあ本当にやっぱなんで日本語を勉強しているのか理由を知りたいような状況では、Why are you studying Japanese って言うんだよね。逆にいきなり How come you're studying Japanese って言われると、I mean it's not wrong, but for some reason, right? Like, it's just more natural in this sense to say why and not how come. So, but I think that's what makes, English and language very interesting is that there really is no clear-cut answer or rigid rule that we follow when using why or how come. まあこういうふうにやっぱ感覚的に使うときもあれば、まあどっちを使ってもいいけど、やっぱこういう状況では how come、こういう状況では why の方がいいみたいな、まあそういうのがあるんだよね。And I think a good way to think about it is when you're asking somebody for a reason that they may feel uncomfortable explaining about ね、何かこう相手に説明を求める。でももしかしたら相手はそれについて説明をしたくないのかもしれないし、もしかしたら、ちょっと複雑なことがあって、でも自分は知りたい。だけど説明したくなかったら別に説明しなくてもいいよみたいなフレンドリーな感じで理由を求めるときは how come がいいのかもしれない。Yeah. I quit my job. Why? っていうよりは how come って言った方がね、なんか、there's a lot of reasons why you quit your job. Maybe you don't want to talk about it right now.
Right. How come might be a little more nicer polite.
Way of saying like, I just don't want to talk about it right now. っていうふうに答えることもできるから、まあやっぱり how come はそういうふうにIt's a safe way of asking for their reasoning, huh? そういうことかもしれないね。
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our video today. And don't forget, Clay is an amazing tutor on Cafe Talk. You can find all of his information in the description below, or you can go to cafetalk.com and find him there. Clay, well, thank you very much for today. I hope to see you in another video.
Thank you for having me, June. I'll see you around.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.